am Sir Oracle, and when I open my lips, let no dog bark. That was Shobna Devi's being. At 4 feet 11 inches, Shobna Devi stood very tall. Everyone obeyed her always, all the time, and every time. It had always been that way. To her, it was a birthright. Her father was the inherited genome of the Zamindari legacy. Father's mercurial power raised her to think of authority as a necessity. Shobna Devi's father, Thirin Babu, was a very influential and prosperous individual in a small town of Bandel. In the cocooned walls of this town, Shobna Devi's omnipotent whims were encouraged, and the ever so territorial Frog Queen ruled everyone's will. According to himself, Thirin Babu had it all. His only regret was he did not have a male heir. In conscience, Thirin Babu wanted to bring up his only child, Shobna Devi, as a son. However, in reality, he was captive by his self-imposed shackles. A shackle imposed by time and traditions. The scope for metamorphosis or a change was not even permissible to Thirin Babu himself. Thirin Babu influenced his daughter to be partially liberated to an extent that was allowed by his own traditional values. Thirin Babu thought about Shobna Devi's marriage as the inevitable responsibility ensued by foreseeable situation that his wealth and legacy might be transferred to the family his daughter weds. That was a worry that gnawed at Thirin Babu's heart quite often. As a result, he sought the remedy for his angst in Subhash. Subhash, an orphan boy, was groomed meticulously to wed Thirin Babu's precious. On the other hand, Shobna Devi too was trapped within the boundaries of tradition. Though she could enjoy uncontrolled authority, she restricted herself captive to the same old-fashioned ethics. Though Subhash Babu's future was shaped by her own father, yet, according to Shobna Devi's traditional paradigm, her mind did not demean the status of Subhash as her husband. She gave him his due respect. Buddhimati, intelligent, Shobna Devi efficiently steered the boat towards the precise expected direction. The direction that she reasoned to be accurate. Everyone agreed with Shobna Devi, trusted her, and listened. Therefore, she never combated opposition, assumed that she was always right, and everyone needed to do his or her best to be agreeable on her terms. Shobna Devi's relationships were limited by strict rules. She bestowed her husband with the esteem that she thought was expected, neither less nor anything more. On the other hand, her husband Subhash understood and was cued to sense that his future was fashioned by his wife's father. This viewpoint was communicated to him through subtle nuances of domination throughout their married life. Shobna Devi was very proud of her achievements. According to her, it had been the hardest and most fulfilling experience raising her children. Shobna Devi thought that she truly had acquired efficiency. Her oldest two daughters were married off to well-settled grooms in America, and her only son, Kamal Kumar, was an obedient son, a successful career engineer, and most importantly, a mama's boy. She always had a son by her side and believed that she will have him there always. Shobna Devi remembered the inadequacy of being a female child. Couldn't forget the sadness in her father's eyes, and this still hurt her core. Thank God she was the mother of a son. She had zilch expectation from her daughters, though from Komal she knew he would always agree, since male heirs truly belonged to the family. Komal was her hope and her future. Her husband had passed away a few years back, and she opted to adorn the white, became a vegetarian, cracked her bangles, and regularly carried out her Ekadashi fasting. That was the respect and the tradition she knew. She felt proud that she could bestow that reverence to her late husband. Even Shobna Devi's righteous devotion reeked of arrogance. At this juncture, there was somewhat pretentious diversion towards religion, though Shobna Devi rarely got distracted from the orbit of her Shangshar family affairs. Her universe was her own menage. It was time for Komal Kumar to get married. She wanted a dutiful, good girl. In other words, Bhalome for Komal's bride. Somewhat like the cute little snake in the poem Bapuram Shapure, an individual without the assertive fangs. Shobna Devi believed in a certain protocol. When marrying a daughter, the groom should be always from the higher economic and social status. And when marrying a son, the bride should be from the lower stature. So she got her Chelidbo, or daughter-in-law, from a very modest family from Bandel, forgetting the hypocritical double standards her own life portrayed. Everyone in Bandel distinguished her family's prestige, and this very knowledge being the tentacles of control. Leena's dad was summoned and the proposal given. Leena's father did not know how to express his gratitude. He was ecstatic. He wished his wife was still alive to experience this joy. Unfortunately, he did not realize that Leena was to be in a golden cage, tied up in golden shackles. Kamal got a job in Mumbai and moved to the city with Leena and, of course, his beloved mother. Shobna Devi was the center of Leena's household, where Shobna Devi, as always, sat in the driver's seat. Leena was amazed at the influence this woman could conjure. Leena's own son Devraj, when asked, would always reply, "He loved his tummy, grandmother the best. Tummy is always right. Tummy is more efficient in everything. Tummy is so well read. Tummy is so culturally astute. Look at Tummy's personality. It outshines everyone's." Leena's existence was invariably eclipsed. Leena felt that Her husband needed a playmate, tool, and a bearer of an heir. Her marriage did not have the emotional strength. In a weird way, the partnership of support for Komal came from his mother. Komal was complacent about this anomaly, totally unaware how a normal relationship felt like. Leena's emptiness gaped, and she duped herself to think she was lucky. God was kind. Leena at least was associated with the prestigious Banerjee Puribar. She was well-to-do today, lived in South Mumbai, whereas her cousins still lived in the suburbs of West Bengal, living in their mundane, same old environment. Yeah, she was lucky. Leena, in reality, lived her life in a golden cage and was always afraid. Leena was constantly anxious that she will not be able to meet the Banerjee Purivar's yardstick of expectations. Again, it was entirely Leena's discretional approach to be affected or not to be affected, to be provoked by others' opinion or not to be provoked. It is we who allow others to malign our vision about our own self-esteem and self-worth. On the other hand, it is easily said than done. Leena never understood the tough and sometimes cruel veneer of Shobna Devi. There was a sentiment of consent in Leena's mind rising from the fact that she knew no better and was complacent in acceptance, since maybe she was inexperienced. Literally, she really never ever had a real romantic relationship in her life. Leena was getting used to being lonely. However, Leena pushed aside the downers and thought that she should be grateful that Thammi genuinely cared for her grandson, and Shobna Devi, the mother, cared so much for her son, Komal. Shobna Devi so efficiently runs the family, etc., 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 etc. Every day her husband, back from office, would enter his mother's room first and give her the day's account. The servants asked Shobna Devi for orders, and Leena's own child looked upon his Thammi for advice. Leena felt isolated in her own home and slowly lost her sense of belonging. Leena was treated like an ignorant child by her mother-in-law. There were strict regulations that Leena had to adhere to. Leena could not work outside the home. She had to choose her friends according to the mother-in-law's preferences. And most importantly, Leena had been isolated from her own natal family. She couldn't attend her father's funeral, the reason being she was pregnant, wouldn't get proper care. Her only brother in Bandel worked a clerical job in the nearby cottage industry, wasn't welcomed into her realm. Her actions were constantly critically viewed and reviewed. In all this, Leena's husband Komal never ever showed her any emotional empathy. Leena accepted it since traditional upbringing never let her question the emotional abuse. Leena couldn't even identify it as an emotional abuse. However, she always knew something wasn't quite right. It was always sitting in the back burner, simmering. Leena still did not lose her vivacious self. She didn't get sucked into the black hole of hopelessness. Some human beings encompass a resilient trait in them. The inborn wisps of feeling positive cannot be throttled out of them. Leena being one of them. Leena did her best to fit in and survive. Helped Shobna Devi with her puja, scripture reading, helped the servants with her unwanted counsel, helped her son to crawl, grow up and walk, respected her relationship with Komal Kumar as much as she could possibly could. Make good with whatever you have, that was her motto. Leena did not indulge in self-pity for too long. She knew how to forgive, a unique inborn gift within her. Leena knew how to forgive. Sometimes Shobna Devi was amazed at this patience Leena showed. Shobna Devi, in her mind, recognized that she had made the right choice of choosing Leena to be her son's bride. Leena's tolerance let Shobna Devi's domination exist. Leena was like a healing balm which had an ability to cure, like the pleasant cool breeze for the tired traveler, like the beautiful fragrance inspiring happiness, like the morning dewdrops sustaining the thirst. She was beautiful. Though she wasn't college educated, she had an innate intelligence that let her absorb information. One of her refuge was reading. Perhaps that was also a shelter to stay in denial and accept the dysfunctional marriage. Mr. Patel too recognized and appreciated the resilient streak in Leena. Mr. Patel was a family friend known to the family since Komal's college days. When Mr. Patel, her husband's bachelor friend, would come, Leena would be reprimanded by Shobna Devi for being too talkative. Married women don't talk to men that way. That would be the oracle. Mr. Patel was a common fixture since he was single. He would sometimes accompany Komal in the evening for dinner. Mr. Patel soon realized that the power spurt in Komal's household was Shobna Devi. Mr. Patel would pay his due respect to Shobna Devi first, then ever so subtly transfer his attention to Leena. Mr. Patel couldn't decipher what it was. Maybe it was too frightening to analyze the truth. But the certainty was that he felt happy being in Leena's company, waited for these rationed snippets of communications. Mr. Patel kept it that way, didn't want to cross the boundaries that might hurt his friend and, foremost, lose these bits and pieces of feeling good. Mr. Patel, for the first time in Leena's life, made her feel like a person with whom she needed to talk to. Sometimes she would wonder if Mr. Patel harbored any other thoughts regarding her other than his friend's wife. Leena would quickly discard these sinful thoughts right away. However, it would again creep up in her mind. What if? And this what if would give her a distinctive pleasure that she couldn't fathom, and she was ashamed to recognize. Leena was scared to nudge this beehive. She remembered that Shobna Devi would always reiterate, always, that Leena was very lucky to be associated with Komal Kumar. In this world, no one can predict life. The Lord kills and makes alive. He brings down to the grave and brings up. We are walking the thin line between life and death, and God is the only power who is truly omnipotent. Shobna Devi had planned so meticulously that Komal would be hers, and only hers, that he will never leave her side. However, God had different plans. Komal returned from office one evening, went to the bathroom and dropped dead. The loud thud made Leena run to the bathroom door, but no one would answer. They broke open the door to find Komal sprawled on the floor, lifeless. Komal had a massive heart attack and hadn't survived. Shobna Devi couldn't fathom what had occurred. The loss of losing one child is a feeling incomprehensible. Shobna Devi asked God, "Why her, Komal?" She asked, Why did she live to experience this pain? What wrong had she done to live this grief? Is it the karma from a previous life or the karma of this life? The mother in Shobna Devi asked. There was no answer. There is no answer. Never. Life has a way of weaving itself with ironical reality. There are no words that can mend this agonizing ache and sadness. The occurrence of death leaves an unimaginable mark on life. Everyone sympathized with Shobna Devi, how hard it was on her, a mother losing her child. Leena had lost too. However, she too sympathized with Shobna Devi. Leena understood too how cherished a child was to a mother. Anytime the precious gets snatched away by any means, it is hard to bear. Shobna Devi had broken down. Leena, on the other hand, like the phoenix bird through burnt within, scrambled to set the scene for the death ceremonies, cleaning her husband's body, decorating him with chandan, garlanding him for the last time with the Rajnigandha flower, lighting up the dhoop, tending to the guests and comforting her mother-in-law. Leena did these with her grace and endurance. Shobna's grandson Devraj, who was studying abroad, was called. Her daughters came from the USA. The rituals were done with and finished. Then they all went back to their respective worlds. The two who were left behind were Shobna Devi and Leena. When the will was read, Mr. Patel and the lawyers were present. Komal Kumar Banerjee had left everything to the mother. Sans Shobna Devi, the property belonged to the son. Komal Kumar did not show any partnership in life nor in death. Komal, leaving Leena at the mercy of Shobna Devi forever. Leena, forgive Komal, since you cannot stay angry with the dead. Leena, adorned white, became a vegetarian, cracked her bangles, and regularly carried out her Ekadashi. That was respect and tradition, she was told. Shobna Devi and Leena had moved back to Bandung, to Shobna Devi's ancestral home. Leena still tending to the needs of Shobna Devi. Mr. Patel still visiting. Shobna Devi sometimes wondered why still. Mr. Patel quit. They were his family too. Relationships doesn't have to be always decided by bloodline. Though death had ended a life, it hadn't ended relationships. Leena and Shobna Devi were important to Mr. Patel. They seemed like family. It wasn't said, nor was it denied. Leena realized Mr. Patel loved her. She too accepted this. Previously camouflaged feelings were absolute and had strengthened. Leena loved him too. Mr. Patel realized her worth and appreciated her. Leena felt complete. Metamorphosis in this relationship happened through time and not in one day. Today Leena could meet his eyes and acknowledge his feelings. Leena wanted to accept his yearnings. She believed in him and foremost wasn't ashamed. Why would they hide? Time had taken a corner that would let Leena and Mr. Patel make their choices. When Leena told her son Debraj and Shobna Devi the truth, all hell broke. Shobna Devi couldn't grasp how this scandalous thing could happen. Shobna Devi couldn't come to terms with the fact that Leena can choose and she has the right to choose. How could a woman step out so drastically from a threshold of traditional boundaries? How can somebody embrace changes? She asked Leena to leave the house instantly. And Leena left. Changes or metamorphosis doesn't come in one day. It's a process of experience and matured realization, influencing you to feel, transform, protest, or conform. This time it was different. This time Leena understood her marriage vows and the reasons for them. Leena wasn't marrying Mr. Patel since her family had asked her to, since it was convenient, since she needed to be lucky. To her, this was just the right thing to do. Today she was living for herself, not for others. Maybe a little late in date, but she got her second chance. Though Leena embraced this new turn, neither she nor Mr. Patel shunned away their responsibilities. They would troop back and forth to Bandel to meet Shobna Devi every week. Every week they would sit outside her home and returned back. Shobna Devi, still obstinate about rejection, they never gave up, since Shobna Devi, for both Leena and Mr. Patel, was family. How can you abandon your family? At first, Shobna Devi wouldn't open the door. However, time allows you to adapt to situations and perseverance pays off. Or maybe someone experiencing a loss feels the need to correct their retrospect about life. You tend to become more tolerant than dogmatic, more introspective rather than extrospective. Shobna Devi realized that Leena was always there for her. She had never ever left her side. She was always indulgent, uncomplaining, tolerant and loving. Shobna Devi admitted to herself, Leena was there for her more than her own daughters. Today with Komal gone, Leena still cared for her approval. It was genuine. And this gesture wasn't forced. Today with Komal gone, the fuss securing Komal had disappeared completely. Acceptance flowed. Shobna Devi obliged, since she too had gotten to love Leena. Leena had looked after Shobna Devi during her paralysis. Again, this wasn't forced responsibility. This being Leena's choice. Shobna Devi passed away having the last drop of holy Ganga Jal from Leena's hand, closed her eyes, and peacefully drifted to sleep. Shobna Devi too had truly crossed the boundaries of tradition and embraced metamorphosis in time. She was happier doing this, calling it a truce. Forgiving and accepting is more gratifying, she felt. She had learned this from Leena, and peace had dawned on her to let go. Shobna Devi left all her belongings in the form of property, not to the daughters, not to her grandson Devraj, but to Leena. This was a discretion rising from love and fear.